Um, Hi again. The time right now is 10:38 on January 13th, 2016. Fuck. Let me turn my Facebook off because that will be annoying. Okay. I promised that I wouldn't cry in this video, so I already did. um, and I apologize if I cry again because I'm really trying to hold it together since it's been. When did I last talk about this? Like last year, I think. Yeah, it's been like almost a year, something like that. I don't know. So I wanted this to kind of be like a little bit of um, like the story of how I met Travis and kind of all the events that happened, and then the end. I'll link below the new posts that I've made with. I think I had emails, and then I found old Facebook messages. I think he since either deactivated his original Facebook and created some other one. I haven't bothered to look him up any further because it hurts me to look him up and to listen to what people have to say to me because I already know what people want to say to me. They want me dead, and they don't care if it's real or not. And you know what? I can't make everybody care. And I don't want to ask for people's sympathy, for people's empathy. I'm not asking for complete acceptance, I guess. But sharing my experience with an abuser and a rapist that lots of people love, I feel like is important not only for myself to have some solace and to talk about this and share it with other people, um, just because I've only just started talking about this, and like it's been like 2 years, I think, that I started talking about this, because I met him in 2013 and we had a relationship, I guess, if you can even call it that. Not a healthy one, but we had a relationship for about a year. I met him online in 2013 in the middle of March. It was around St. Patrick's Day, and I've been watching him for half a year up until that point. Um, and I immediately kind of fell for him a little bit, I guess. He has that sort of charm, that nerdy nice guy charm. And actually, the first video that I saw of his was some, like, how to date a nerd video or something. And I was just completely enamored with him. I thought he was so hot. And I thought he was so charming. And I always thought in my head, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, like, one day he told me that I was cute or something, and I had like a fantasy of like later on in life, like what if we got together and like had a family and all this stuff. And uh, turn of events happened half a year later, and I guess I got my wish that he would notice me and we would start having something. But it wasn't the relationship that I thought that we would have. So anyway, I met him via online in the middle of March. I think it was like March 13th, March 14th. I wish I had the original messages, but I followed him both on his Tumblr account, which has since been taken over by somebody that's very cool. So thank you. And I had followed him on Tumblr, and I also subscribed to him on YouTube the same day. And then I went out to go and see my sister in a musical, or not a musical, an opera, because she was a fantastic singer, and I wanted to go and support her. And he had sent me a message that night on Tumblr, and I can't remember if it went through or not. And then he messaged me the next day and said, "Hey, I'm wondering if you got my message." And I said, "Oh, no, I didn't. Hi." And then he told me that he had sent me a message, and he had said that I was very cute. And that kind of started the snowball. And we talked on Tumblr for a couple of messages. And then after a couple of messages, he made it clear that he wanted to continue talking somewhere else. And so I gave him my email, he gave me his email, and we started emailing on Gmail. And I do have those messages, and I will link the post below where the messages were. If you don't bother to go and read them, the exchange that we had back and forth went from him just kind of asking me to talk about myself and what I enjoyed and why I was watching him, and I did. And then he asked me if I could tell me or if I could tell him my age. And so I did, and at the time I was 16. I wasn't going to turn 17 until the middle of September of that year. So yes, I was 16 when we met, and I was 16 when we met in person on August 1st, 2013, sometime at night. I think it was like 7:30 or 8:30 at night. And that was when we met in person, and that was when the rape took place. Okay, email. So I told him my age, and he said, "Wow, that's very young. Are you sure that you want to be talking to a guy like me?" And I said, "If that makes you uncomfortable that I'm 16, then let's just stop." And since he is interested in underage girls, it was not a problem with him. And at that point, I had been, for the past couple of years, I've been heartbroken by lots of silly boys that used me for my body. And they only wanted me to be naked on webcam with them. They only wanted me to send nude images of them, or of me, and send it to them. And they didn't really care about my feelings. And so I was just kind of everybody's little sex thing. And I was deemed so unattractive that I had to be everybody's dirty little secret. And I just, after a few years of doing that, I think it started when I was about 12, and it led up until the relationship that I had with Travis. I just assumed that that was the best that I was going to get. I was going to be a cat lady with lots of different booty calls. And I just kind of accepted it, and that's very sad. And I just want to say to any underage girl out there, or any girl out there, or any person, that if you feel like you need to settle for being a dirty little secret for the rest of your life, you don't, and you shouldn't. So don't just accept that. And know that, in the future, you can meet somebody else that's really going to care about you, whether it be a friend, or whether you repair a relationship with your family, or if you meet somebody that is romantically interested in you. There's somebody out there that's going to see you for more than your body. There's somebody out there that is going to actually love you for all that you are, and not just your tits, and not just your ass, and not just because you're 16 years old and it's exciting. So I just kind of went, fuck it, let's just do it. I had been obsessed with him for so long and thought that he was so cute, and he was offering to have this little thing with me, and I just thought, why not? Being a stupid young person with very little moral compass at the time. And so then he told me that we should exchange numbers so that we could have more fun. Of course, I obliged. I gave him my number, and we immediately began a sexual relationship. And it was very obvious from the first few texts that this relationship was beyond unhealthy, and that it was going to be very controlling and very abusive. And he was going to be the one doling out the abuse, and he was going to be the one that was overpowering me, and I was going to be the little bitch, essentially, that puts up with all the shit and gives him whatever he wants. And I would still be in the wrong in some way in the end, and I would have to constantly apologize for myself, wait for him to finally accept the apology, and then continue on with whatever he wanted to do. And so the very first night that we exchanged numbers, he demanded nude images. And at first I was uncomfortable, then I obliged, and then he started setting down certain rules and things for the images. They had to be taken at a certain angle so that I was showing everything that he wanted, and so that my face was included in the photos. If my face was not included in the photos, he got very upset with me. If it was taken at a different angle than he wanted, he would get very upset with me. And if I started saying, I'm tired, I don't want to take more images, I've sent you 20 pictures already, and I haven't even received a single image of you, even though you promised. If you show me yours, then I will show you mine. And I just want to say, not like I should have been really excited to see nude images of himself. I shared probably hundreds of photos of myself naked to him, and I think I got 2 dick pics in the entire year that we were talking, and the rest of them were just him shirtless and his face, or just his face. And, obviously it's wrong of him to even be asking for nudes of myself, but it's also kind of unfair of me to feel like I have to put myself completely out there, and he doesn't have to, because he's the boyfriend and he's the boss. So I got pissed off by it, but I was very afraid of him, especially after I gave him my address, stupidly, and he had my Facebook, so he had a lot of my personal information. And since he lived in Ohio and I lived in Illinois, we were pretty close to each other in terms of distance. He could drive, what is that, like a 6-hour drive, 8-hour drive, and be there in front of my house and do whatever he wanted. And I had been threatened a couple of times, and I was scared. I was scared of what might happen, especially after he actually visited and I saw what he was capable of. So we continued just having an online relationship, a text relationship, where I would send nude images. I would dirty talk with him. I would occasionally talk on the phone with him. But since he was an older man, and I wasn't supposed to be doing this, and I had told my parents that I wasn't interested in anyone at all, and that I wouldn't do these things, and they would snoop from time to time, I just didn't. I was scared. And so I didn't want to get caught. I didn't want him to get in trouble. And I didn't want to get in trouble. So I kept it a secret. And therefore I didn't talk to him on the phone a lot, because I was afraid that my parents would hear, come into the room and say, "What the fuck are you doing?" There were several close calls in terms of both phone conversations and Skyping. He told me that his Skype camera was broken, and so I would get on Skype whenever he wanted me to, whether I felt sick or whether I felt tired or whether I felt upset with him or whether I just didn't want to do it. And I would show him whatever he wanted, and I would flash whatever he wanted for however long that he wanted. I would leave my bedroom door open because he wanted that little risk of me getting caught by my family. And I would do it. I was very weak. And so again, I'm going to say this a lot, but it's true. And this is what happened, is that I just did whatever he wanted because I didn't want him to leave. And he would threaten to leave a lot. A lot. Pretty much every single time that we talked, he would make me feel like crap. And he would call me a bitch. And he would ask why I wasn't doing what he was telling me to. And then he would threaten me with breaking up. Sometimes he would defriend me on Facebook. He would not talk to me for weeks to a month at a time. And then he would come back and say, oh, baby, you've been sending me all of these apologies, and I finally accept them. I just wanted to see if you were really interested, if you were really going to stick it out with me. And I knew it was messed up. But there was just something about him that just kept me going. It just kept the thing going. And I knew that it was fucked up and that eventually I was going to get hurt or break down or whatever. But there was some thrill about it. And he made it seem like, everything was going to be fine. And so I just assumed that everything was going to be fine. And we continued on with that online relationship for a few months. And then August 1st, he had been helping a friend move. And he was in Chicago and he had his friend's car. And so he told me, I'm in Chicago, we're meeting up. And I said, okay. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know exactly how far sexually we were going to go. Definitely didn't think that we were going to have intercourse of any kind. I was wrong. I wasn't completely ready to have sex. I had had it in the back of my mind, maybe we were going to do it. Maybe I would have my first sexual experience with a man. Maybe. But I highly doubted it. I thought maybe we were just going to hang out. Maybe we would make out, fool around a little bit. He said they wanted to get ice cream. I thought we were going to do that. So that day comes around. I told my mom that I was going to be out with my best friends. She believed me. She set up a babysitter immediately, and she was actually going to be going out that night anyway. So she left. About an hour or two later, he called me and said that he was on my street a few houses further than mine because he didn't want to make it look suspicioso. So I said goodbye and told the babysitter I would be back in a few hours. And I got in the car with him, and he was hardly talking in the car. He was trying to drive off somewhere where we could be alone, somewhere more private where nobody would really be. And so he asked me if there were any parks nearby, if there was anywhere where we could go to be by ourselves. I told him 5 or 10 minutes drive, I'm sure that we could find somewhere to go. So he parked on a residential street after about 10 minutes. As soon as the car was parked, I turned to go and talk to him, and he immediately went in for a kiss. And it was very, very intense, and it caught me off guard. I was uncomfortable with it, but at that point, I was so afraid of what was going to happen to me that my state of consciousness just kind of slipped, and I felt very distant. It was almost like I was floating above my body and watching what was happening with little to no control over myself. So I let him kiss me, and it went on for several minutes. He began to touch me. He put his hand over my pants on my crotch. Then he put his hand inside of my pants over my crotch. He felt me up through my shirt and then underneath my shirt. Again, I didn't really want it, but it was happening. And so I just let it happen. Then he pulled away. He talked about some experiences that he had had driving from California to Illinois with his friend. He was talking shit, and he was trying to make me feel like I was super special. And he was just constantly also reminding me, like, this is a secret. You can't tell anybody. You can't say anything. And I was like, okay, I won't say anything, don't worry. He gave me a little poker chip that he had gotten when he was in an airport in Vegas or something. He gave me something else, and then a while after that, he decided that we should get out of the car and go walk. So we did. And at first, we were just holding hands and walking down the sidewalk. And then, after a few minutes of doing that, he turned to me and he asked me, have you ever been pushed up against a brick wall and made out with? And I said, no, I haven't. And with that, he pushed me up against a brick wall, and he held my hands up like this with his hand, like gripping onto each wrist against the wall. He's a very strong guy. He might not look like he's got the muscle and the power, but me being weak and dissociated, and him surprisingly being a strong man, he held me against the wall, even though I was kind of struggling and saying, stop, there are people walking by, there are cars driving by, what if my boss is around? What if a friend of my mom's is there? What if somebody sees me that knows who I am being pressed up against this brick wall with this strange man, making out with me and touching me? Sure enough, two people walked by. They laughed. And then they whispered to each other. I did not know who they were, thank God. But people did see. And I was very embarrassed. And at that point, also completely terrified. So after he was done holding me up against a brick wall, we grabbed hands again. And we started walking down the sidewalk. He was talking very sexually. And I was very uncomfortable. I would just kind of giggle and go, yeah, yeah. And then we had crossed the street, and we were just walking down the street for like 10 or 15 minutes. And he took his hand out and like unraveled his hand from mine. And he put his hand over my crotch and led me by my crotch to the area where the rape happened. And I remember just the second that I felt his hand go over myself, I was immediately regretting ever being with him, and especially being out in public with him right now. I put my arms on his arm and I was trying to push him off. Stop, Travis, stop. It's uncomfortable. Stop. People are going to look. Cars are driving by. There are people walking on the sidewalk. Please stop. And he told me, shut up. Shut up. It's fine. Nobody's looking. Shut up. I got scared and I could not push his hand away. So he led me by my crotch. And finally, he saw an area where there was a strip of grass, and there was a streetlight by the sidewalk. There was a streetlight all the way at the end, and nothing else. So it was very bright by the sidewalk. It was very bright by the way other end, and then it just got very dark in the rest of the strip of the grass. If I can find an image of exactly where that was, then I'll post it, and then I can link to that as well, because it's hard to describe. It was like a very small strip of grass, kind of like a dog park almostly, but very, very empty. It's hard to describe, but it was just this small strip of grass. Streetlight, nothing. And he decided, let's go here. And I was like, okay. Nobody was around. He told me that we wouldn't be getting caught doing anything. So we started walking through the strip of grass. Again, we were talking. I didn't expect anything sexual to be happening, especially at that moment. And suddenly, I was caught off guard. He pushed me into a ditch that was in the strip of grass. He held me down once again with my arms like this and said, "You need to be quiet." And I started trembling and I didn't know what to do. So I was making a little bit of noise because at that point I was afraid and I kind of wanted somebody to see what was going on. And he cupped his hand over my mouth and told me to shut the fuck up so that nobody would hear what was happening. And at that point, again, any bit of consciousness, any bit of anything just completely left me. And I was hovering over my body and watching myself being attacked. And I had never thought in a million years that this was going to happen to me. I thought that I was way too smart to give in to somebody that abusive and that controlling. And I felt very ashamed of myself. And I felt that I was so much stronger than that. And I thought that maybe if I was in this position, I would be strong enough to get myself out, to get myself home by myself, to go to the police, to report it immediately. But I think you don't fully understand how terrifying that is until you're in that position, which I never, ever wish upon anybody at all. Sorry. So I was in this ditch with one hand cupped over my mouth. The other hand had my arm held down. And when I complied and just kind of completely froze and was completely silent, he took my pants off, and then he took my underwear off, and then he proceeded to give me oral sex. And every single time that I would make a sound, he would tell me to shut up and be quiet and to stop making noise and just stop moving around. At some point, there was some lady walking her dog around there, and so he made me pull my pants up, and we were kind of not doing anything for a second. Then when he realized that she wasn't paying attention, he went back to doing whatever he was doing, and he proceeded to give me oral sex for about 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. And then he flipped me over onto my stomach very hard and took his penis out of his pants and his underwear and said, "Now it's my turn." And took my head with my hair like this and forced myself down on it very deep. And I remember I had some tears rolling down my cheeks and I was gagging and I was trying to say, "Stop, stop, I can't. And he was telling me, "Take it, bitch, take it. Can you take it a little bit deeper?" And I would say, "No, no." And he'd be like, "Try." And he would take my hair and force and force and force. And it felt like it was going on forever. He pulled out his phone and he took a couple of pictures, one of which he texted to my old phone. My old phone is at my mother's apartment. I'm not sure if I can recover that text message specifically. If I can, I would post it online, but that is child pornography. So if I find that photograph, I am going to be sending that to law enforcement. I've been trying to find that photograph for so long. I think I deleted it. It was in one of our Facebook conversations, I think, and at some point I had to erase it because it hurt to look at it and to know that he had not only raped me, but he had taken a photograph. And I don't know if he showed his friends. I don't know if he just kept that as JO material. I don't know. I don't know what happened to it. I'm sure that he's since deleted it. I'm sure that he's since deleted all of my my nude images. I'm sure that he just tried to take it away. Sorry. And so I just remember sputtering and gagging and crying and trying to say no. And then he took my head eventually, after probably the longest 10, 15 minutes of my life, and pushed me far down. And I was forced to swallow his cum. And when the sexual experience was finished, he told me to put my pants back on. He did. He put his pants back on, and he once again held my crotch, and he led me back to his car, or his friend's car. And I remember the whole time that we were walking back, I was so numb, and the only thing that I could continue to say was, "Wow, I couldn't believe, like, the cum didn't taste like anything. Oh my gosh, I never thought that would happen. Your cum didn't taste like anything. It didn't taste like anything. It didn't taste like anything." I had nothing else to say. And it was just like I was stuck on repeat. I was a scratched record and I couldn't stop saying that stuff. And then we got in the car. He drove me back to my house. He drove a little bit further down the street again. And that was that. I got home. I told my friends that we had had sex and how excited and happy I was. Meanwhile, I was crying my eyes out. And half an hour after that, he had sent me the image that he took while he was raping me. And I couldn't believe that I had done this to myself. And even after that happened, we stayed in contact for a while. And then I kind of started to see other people. I was trying to give it a try. I couldn't do it. And so I would continuously try and lie to him and tell him that I was cheating on him, that I was dating other people. just because I kind of wanted him to get off my back. But then I would get really scared of losing him again. And so I would apologize and tell him that he was the only one for me. And he was telling me things like, if we stay together, we're going to get married, we'll have children, do horrible things with our children. Again, I will link below all the things that we talked about. And that includes bestiality and incest and rape and being drugged and there, uh, mm, there's lots of stuff. I'm sure that this video's gone on for like half an hour. There's just not enough time in the world to talk about everything that we did, but we stayed in contact until March of the next year. And I had been contemplating seriously ending things with him ever since I was raped. And I remember I was on the couch with one of my best friends, and I was talking to her before I logged on to the internet, and I told her, man, I don't know. I think I should end it with him, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of scared. And she had been telling me from a very long time ago that I should just stop. But I didn't listen to her, of course, and I kept this going for way too long. But we were sitting on the couch that day, and I was just like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to think about this anymore. I'm going to go on Tumblr. And I logged onto Tumblr. And if this was not a sign, then I don't know what else was, that I should have broken up with him long ago. But the original post that was made about Alex Carpenter being a rapist was the very first thing that showed up. And then there were several other YouTube abuse posts below that showed up on my feed. And I burst into tears. And I said, yeah, I'm going to do it right now. And I sent him a message, very long message. And I told him, hey, we've been in contact for a year. And this has gone on for way too long. I just saw the post about Alex Carpenter, and I realized how abusive that you have been to me and how much pain you have put me through. So, therefore, we are done. That was the last message that I sent to him on Facebook, and I blocked him after that, deleted him, blocked him, and I got texts for the next 2 or 3 days from him, begging me not to do anything, begging me not to go to the police, begging me to take him back, begging me to do anything that he wanted again. And then he tried to explain himself to me, tried to tell me exactly why he treated me the way that he did, which was because he wanted to be the dominant daddy figure and I was the little girl figure, and I had to do whatever he told me to do, no matter how much I didn't want to do it. But he didn't realize that things made me uncomfortable, which was bullshit because I told him several times that these things made me uncomfortable, and I was just so done with it. And the very last thing that I said to him was, if you contact me again, I am definitely going to law enforcement. That was it. And I have not talked to him since then. And I don't plan on talking to him ever again. I was afraid to go to the police first. So I went to my friends first. My friends were very accepting. Then I felt like it wasn't enough. And I wanted my family to know. So I told my mother first. And I think the thing that really made me break down in the end and made me feel like nobody's really going to take it seriously was because her response was that I did it to myself because that's what older guys do, and because I had been slurring it around, so I deserved it. And my dad didn't really know what to say because it was uncomfortable for him. I mean, it was uncomfortable for everybody. My family really didn't know what to say. And I did not receive the support that I thought that I was going to get. So I kept everything to myself, and I attempted suicide several times. Went to the hospital for about 4 or 5 days, lied my way out of the hospital, attempted suicide even more. I was not taken seriously, and my mother began to become abusive herself. And this time, instead of just emotional abuse, which had been going on for a very long time, even before Travis entered the picture, it became physical, and we were physically fighting. We were emotionally drained from each other, and I just wanted to die so bad that eventually I said, fuck it. And I did what I believe was the best thing for me to do. And I got out of the situation. I ran away. And even if that sounds very weak, again, like me being weak, I feel like that was one of the strongest moments that I've ever been in my entire life, because it was extremely difficult to leave my family, no matter how much I hated them all. But I did it. And I've been kind of attempting recovery since then. I've been in therapy for years now, and although I've made a little bit of progress, I have recently relapsed pretty badly. I gave in to an eating disorder and lost about 70 pounds in the past year. I'm attempting recovery now because I'm sick and tired of feeling like death is knocking on my door, and self-injury is starting to come into the picture again, and lots of thoughts of suicide, and I have attempted suicide quite a few times since then, especially after he made the video essentially calling me a crazy bitch, and then me receiving all of the death and abuse threats from random strangers. I went to the hospital 2 more times, and one was December of 2014, and one was April of 2015. I haven't been to the hospital since, but sometimes I feel like that really is where I should be, because I do feel very dangerous. I feel like a danger to myself, and occasionally I do feel like a danger to other people. I'm suffering from PTSD very badly. Lots of flashbacks, constant nightmares and night terrors. I see Travis's face on every other white guy with facial hair. And it sounds ridiculous and it sounds kind of silly, but it's in my mind, and I'm convinced that he's in the house with me, and I'm convinced that he follows me around in cars, that he follows me around on the sidewalk. Of course he isn't. I'm very far away from him now, but my brain just I'm constantly being haunted by him. Images of him and hallucinations of him, thoughts of him. I'm attempting recovery now, seriously, because I'm sick of him controlling my brain and making me feel like I need to be dead instead of becoming strong. So that is my little vocalization of my experience. I don't know if this is really going to help entirely that much, but personally for me, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good after talking about that. It's hard. And it's been very sad to see myself deteriorate. It's very sad to see myself deteriorating over time. I thought, I'm 19 now, and me turning 20 this year. I thought that I would have had my shit together. I thought that I would have been having fun in college. I thought that I would have had a job maybe that I wanted, had a lot of friends, had a lot of confidence. And it's kind of all completely shot. And so I'm trying to get myself out there now, because the more that I hide inside and away from everything, the more toxic the thoughts in my brain get. If anybody else has gone through this with Travis or any other YouTuber, I'm very sorry, because I know what it's like for people to not believe you because they refuse to believe that somebody that is entertaining, somebody that they look up to, somebody that's convinced them that they're a nice person. It's hard for people to believe that they could truly be evil. And, for those of you that prefer to believe Travis over myself because you don't know who I am and you think you know who he is, you don't know who he is. I know who he is. And at least I have myself. At least I know what happened. And you know what? I shouldn't really give a fuck about what you guys have to say. And I really shouldn't take death and abuse threats seriously. But it's scary because I've been receiving those since I was 7 years old. So sometimes I don't know what to believe. I don't know if somebody's going to come knocking at my door trying to beat me up, because it's happened before. I don't know if somebody is going to find me in public and confront me, because it has happened to me before. I don't know if somebody's going to befriend me to get whatever they want out of me and then just leave, because it has happened to me before. Trusting people is very difficult, and I'm just starting to trust people now. I'm just starting to let people back into my life. I'm just starting to share about all the pain that I've been going through. Travis, before Travis, after Travis. PTSD is really hard, especially when I have anxiety disorder, when I have depression, when I have bipolar 2, and when I possibly have BPD put on top of it. It's very difficult. And to anybody out there that has experienced abuse or rape or stalking or whatever it may be from both famous people and unfamous people, I'm sorry. You don't deserve to feel the way you do. You didn't deserve what happened. You didn't deserve to feel the way that you did when it was happening and after the fact that it's happened. And if it's been years, months, whatever, and you feel like you should have recovered from it and you haven't, I just want you to know that that's normal, and you shouldn't feel bad for not recovering from it sooner. Everybody's recovery time is different. Everybody copes with things differently, positively, negatively. Some people run away from their problems for a long time. And I did. But in the end, it wasn't doing anything good for me. And looking at myself now, underweight, very depressed, very isolated, I don't want to be where I am right now. This is not who I am. I have not known my true self for almost 12 years. And especially within the past 3, my real self is so far away from the person that I am right now. I don't want to be somebody that starves themselves to death. I don't want to be somebody that slits their wrists and cuts their arms and their legs up because that relieves the pain. I don't want to be somebody that attempts to OD on pills to fall asleep forever. I don't want to be somebody that tries to ingest household cleaners and bleach because I just want to feel the most painful death in the world. I don't want to be somebody that tries to hang themselves or cover their heads with a plastic bag because I just don't want to be me anymore. And if I take recovery seriously this time, maybe things will be different. As for right now, who knows? Yeah, no, this is really long, but I want to thank you all for listening. People that hate me, people that believe me, people that don't know what to believe. Thanks for taking time to even watch 1 second of this video. To those who have been abused and raped as well, I'm very sorry. And I love you. And to everybody that has been here for me and been brave enough to talk about their own experience. I can't thank you guys enough. It's nice to have friends. Love you guys. And maybe I'll talk to you guys soon.